Hello all out there in YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm not in my typical location. I'm at Sadie's house, dog-sitting her for a few days. So yeah, we are once again dealing with me being in not my typical location. The usual disclaimer here, I apologize for the lighting, I apologize if there's some echoey audio. It's just, this is the best place to film in this house, so yeah, working with what we can. Hey, what do you want from me? I am the most professional person on YouTube. You don't come here for professionalism, you come here for awkwardness and some humorous weirdness. Anyway, so today, as you can see by the title of this video, I am doing a random horror recommendations, and this is a very special random horror recommendations video. This is a series that where I literally just randomly recommend a few of the horror movies that I've watched for the past few months, and this is something I usually try to do. It used to be a series that I only did when I was too busy, but people seem to enjoy the series, so I changed it to something that I try to do every other month. But this one I'm doing a little closer to when I last did a random horror recommendation, and there's a specific reason for that. One of the movies I'm talking about in this video, and it's going to be the first movie I talk about in this video, is a brand new movie that came out this year called Pulp Modern Die Laughing. For sheer transparency, one of the directors of the movie, by the name of, hold on, I just want to make sure I get this right, Scotch Rutherford, he approached me to talk about his movie. Like I said, there's multiple directors on this movie, and it's an independent production, a very independent production, and he approached me to see if I could talk about this film. He asked me to check it out, and asked if I could review it. And to be completely honest, I always feel weird about the idea of a director approaching someone and asking them to review a movie. I felt weird about having one of the directors asking me to review the movie for them because I have that fear in the back of my mind of, what if I don't like it? I always have that worry in the back of my head. What if I don't like the movie they're asking me to check out? Like, the reason he approached me is because he understands, well, he sees on my channel that I love to support independent film and I love to support low-budget to micro-budget filmmaking. Luckily, I liked this movie. I did enjoy this movie very much, but I was feeling a little weird about talking about this one. I'm not a huge YouTuber, okay? I have the small little channel, I have my small little corner of the internet where I, and I'm happy with my small corner of the internet. I'm happy with the following I have, and it's just this little corner of the internet where I get to talk about odd movies and horror movies and underground stuff and all that. And, like, I've gotten a lot of people saying that they've checked out movies they've checked out movies based on my recommendation and said they would never have heard of this movie if I had not talked about it. So that's something that means a lot to me, and it's not something I take lightly. Again, I'm a small channel, I know that, but anyway, it's just like, people watch movies based on my recommendation, and that means something to me. So having a director approach me about a film and asking me to review it makes me feel a little uncomfortable, but again, I did like this movie. And when I thought about it, I understood. I understood why people would approach YouTubers and ask them to review their movies, especially independent films. Because this is an independent production company. I'll get more into the details of it when I talk about the movie, but this is an independent production company, a small independent production company. Basically, an underground independent production company because not too many people know about them. And with streaming services and so much stuff coming out, it's so easy for a movie to get buried under so many other movies. So when you make a film, how else are you going to get people to watch it? You approach people and ask them, hey, can you check out my movie? I know that because I did that. I made a short film called Enjoy, and I posted it on my YouTube channel and asked people to watch it, asked people to spread the word about it. Yes, that's right, I'm whoring myself out. I'm a whore, and I am not ashamed to admit it. But, I mean, I understood why. But again, I have that worry of not liking a film that someone who made the film asks me to check out, because the last thing I would ever want to do is discourage anybody from making a movie. You know, no matter how small your budget is, how little money you have, I would never discourage anyone from making their film. All I want is effort put into that film. But like I said, luckily I did like this movie, and I do want to support independent filmmakers, so this is the first time I've ever done something like this, and I figured, you know what, okay, let's watch the movie, and I felt better doing it in a random horror recommendations than an actual review, so there's 2 other movies attached to this video. Pulp Modern is an underground independent magazine that focuses on pop culture, and from what I've researched, I looked into them, they do lean more towards horror and stuff like that, and they've been expanding from the magazine into filmmaking. And this is one of their this is their most recent films. I haven't seen any of their other movies, but I have seen this one. And what we have here, Pulp Modern, Die Laughing, is an anthology movie, and it's a horror comedy, or to be more precise, a comedy horror. This is a movie that's focusing more on being fun than being scary. And it is a lot of fun. Now, I don't know if this is how it is with their other movies, but in this movie they do try to connect the movie to the magazine, which I understand. They were a magazine first, and then expanded into film. This is a solid anthology movie. You have 5 segments, which I really appreciate. I love when an anthology movie has 4 to 5 segments. Now, when you have 5 segments, you do risk the movie going a little long, but Pulp Modern Die Laughing is a little under 90 minutes. It's around 90 minutes, give or take. So you have 5 segments plus a wraparound story, all handled very well. And it's, like I said, it's done in this, like, very digestible period of time, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that because none of the segments felt rushed. Like, all the segments felt like they were as long as they needed to be. And again, I appreciate the fact that they were able to tell 5 stories plus a wraparound in this short amount of time and make each segment feel, like, not feel rushed. None of the segments feel too long, none of the segments feel too rushed. You're in and out and you've had a good time. And there's a decent amount of variety in this movie. And that, for me, that's one of the most important things in an anthology movie, is variety. Getting into the segments. First, you have the wraparound story, which is, it could not be simpler. It's a DJ in a radio host in a radio station. He's playing classical music, and he's getting calls from this woman who he had a one-night stand with, and she has become obsessed with him, and we know where this is going. But each segment, he pulls out a book, or a booklet, which is a story from Pulp Modern, the underground magazine, and he's reading each segment, and that leads into each segment. So, very simple. The first segment, I think, is the most fun out of all the segments, and it's the most self-aware. It's called, I have all the segments written down here, hold on. The first segment is called Millennial Slasher. This was the funniest to me, because the entire segment is essentially the climax of a slasher film, and it's all a spoof on how hard it is to kill the slasher at the end of your slasher movie. And I legitimately laughed out loud during some of these parts. It was fun. Admittedly, there is some shaky CGI here and there, but again, that doesn't bother me because this is an independent movie, funded with, I don't know exactly what the budget is, but you can tell that they didn't have too much money to make this film, but they did very good with what they have. The second segment was Demonic Mirror. Probably my favorite segment of the movie. It's, you know, this guy who's a gamer, he gets a new mirror, and it turns out that the mirror is haunted. Surprise, surprise. But he can see a demonic version of himself in the mirror, and but it only reveals itself when the lights are off. So you turn on the lights, you don't see the thing in the mirror, but whenever the lights go off, you can see it. But the longer the lights are off, the more powerful the demonic creature becomes. Not the most original idea, I admit, but it's still a fun segment, and it's handled in its own unique way, and there is a comedic edge to it. Like, there are some stupid things that are done in this movie, but because it's a comedy, you're okay with it because the movie's not taking itself too seriously. The third segment is, hold on, let me make sure I get this. It's the dark half of a literary doomsayer. Now, this one is the least comedic of all the other segments, and because of that, it tends to stick out a little bit. It's a good segment, it's just because it's taking itself a little more seriously and because it doesn't have that same comedic edge, it does stick out a bit, and it doesn't really fit with the other four segments. It's still good, and I do believe it's the longest segment in the movie. It's still well done, but because of the fact that it is the least comedic, it does have a harder time flowing with the rest of the movie. But it is well done. It's this teacher who is also a writer, and he writes a story. He writes stories about this character that is a hitman, and he starts taking on personality traits of the hitman. And I don't want to spoil it, but you pretty much know where things are going from here. But it is well done. It's well done. It's well acted. It is suspenseful. It could have been funnier in this movie where all the segments have some kind of humor to them. And then the fourth segment is a satanic parrot. You have this grandmother and you have this young boy who is, I believe, special needs. They have a cockatoo. And the cockatoo starts talking to each person separately, talks to the grandson separately, talks to the grandmother separately, and is basically trying to turn everybody against each other, trying to make them kill each other. And that's a fun segment. I mean, who doesn't love a foul-mouthed, angry, talking bird? We all enjoy that. And then the final segment is, this one I don't want to spoil. You can kind of see where it's going, but I don't want to spoil it. And this is one of those situations where seeing where it's going doesn't ruin the movie. It actually makes it a little more suspenseful and a little more fun. This woman is cooking a special dinner for her husband, and then we find out that the husband has been cheating on her. That's all I'm going to say about this. Again, you can probably see where it's going, but it's done very well, and it has a good payoff. So, yes. So, all 5 segments are very well done, especially given the small budget. Again, I don't know exactly how much the budget was, but it wasn't a lot, and they did a good job with, making this movie with what they had. I don't have too many problems with it. The only issue I really had with it was the wraparound story. Not that the wraparound story is bad, and again, I understand why they did the wraparound story the way they did it in this movie, because they're connecting it to the magazine. This was an independent underground magazine first, so of course they're going to connect the movie to the magazine. It serves its purpose. It wraps all the segments together and it introduces you to each segment. The problem I have with it is with how much fun there's creativity or at the very least fun in each of the segments. I mean, you got an evil talking bird, you got a slasher killer that's impossible to kill, you got a demonic mirror and other stuff like that. And then you look at the wraparound story, it is well done, but it is just a radio host sitting in a radio station playing classical music, reading books. That's what it is. And yes, you have this woman who's obsessed with him calling in every now and again, but I just think there could have been a little more to it, given the creativity of the other segments. And again, I want to make it clear, I understand that they're connecting it to the magazine, but, what might have been cool is if, instead of having him be a host playing classical music, have him be like a paranormal radio host. Like, he talks about ghost stories, cryptozoology, and stuff like that. And each of the segments is somebody calling into the radio station and telling a story like, oh, this happened to a friend of mine, or this happened to a friend of a friend, or something like that, or this happened to my uncle, or something like that. And each segment is a story that somebody calling into this paranormal radio station is saying. And then you could have the man reacting to each story in between each segment, and then, of course, keep, someone who's obsessed with them calling in and have it tied. I think it could have tied into those segments a little more. But again, I get it here. They're connecting it to the magazine. I get it there. I just think that there could have been a little more done with the wraparound story, given the creativity of the 5 segments. I don't know if this is something I will do again, you know, a director approaching me to review their movie. I don't know if I will do it again, but I was happy to do it here. The guy was very polite about it. And I do want to support independent filmmaking, so go to Amazon and check this movie out. It is well worth your time. If you like low-budget comedic movies, I would highly recommend checking this one out. I don't know if I would say it's one of my favorite anthology movies, but it is good. It's solid and it's well worth a watch, and I would gladly watch it again with a group of friends. And I look forward to see what these people do in the future, because every movie they make, they're going to improve their craft and get better at their craft with each one. So yes, check this movie out. It's a good time. It's definitely worth supporting an independent film company, especially this one, because you can really see the potential here. But now we can move on to me not selling out. We'll go from me selling out to me not selling out. How's that sound? So in the next movie I want to talk about is a shot on not shot on video, shot on Super 8 horror movie. It's more of a thriller, but it's called The Wrong Door. Now, again, I've been diving into the shot on video horror movies, and this wasn't shot on video. This was shot on Super 8. And from what I understand, this was a student film of, a college project from these people going to college. I can't think of their names off the top of my head because my memory's terrible. It's filled with dogs and movies and other various things that only I think about because I'm a weirdo. But anyway, so The Wrong Door. This is more of a thriller than a horror movie, but I still wanted to talk about it here. Because again, you know, I love supporting independent projects. I love supporting micro-budget projects. And this was pretty impressive for a movie that was, for a college film project. It was really good. The movie is basically a micro-budget effort at making a DePalma-esque thriller, a Brian DePalma-esque thriller. And I think they did a pretty good job. There are similarities to the movie Blowout because it deals with this guy who is working with sound and dealing with sound and film and stuff like that. And sound plays a big part in the movie. Audio plays a big part in the movie. It was legitimately suspenseful. I found myself on the edge of my seat in a few scenes. The movie is like, it's trying to do a Brian De Palma-esque thriller. You have this college student who's working on a school project, and he has a part-time job to make money for school where he basically delivers singing telegrams. So he's been called out to do a singing telegram, and he's invited to this apartment complex to sing happy birthday to somebody. And he has to wear a jester costume because, you know, that's part of the gimmick. And when he gets to the apartment building, he ends up knocking on the wrong door, and there's this woman answers the door looking rather distressed, and she's mouthing words to her. You hear a man in the background, but you see her mouthing a word or two, and then the guy, you know, gets called over to the apartment he's supposed to be at. So he does his job, he's invited to stay at the apartment for a while, and then he keeps thinking about this girl and then realizes that she was mouthing the words, "Help me." So she goes back to her apartment, finds her dying. She's essentially dying there. Something has happened here and she's essentially dying. So he goes to get help, comes back, the woman's gone. When he goes to leave, he finds her dead body in the back of his car. And for the rest of the movie, he's trying to figure out what to do with this dead body, and he's being stalked by the person who killed her. Simple premise, very simple premise. Just this guy finds a dead body being hunted by the person who killed, being hunted by the murderer, you know. I knew I would eventually get the words right. Sorry, it's kind of early in the morning. I had to film this like shortly after I woke up. I apologize. Anyway, this is a very suspenseful movie, and it's amazing because it's a very minimal movie, too. It's a small cast. I mean, we're essentially just hanging out with this guy for most of the time. There are scenes where he's hanging out with other people, but for most of the time he's by himself. Like, he's traveling down a dark road. He's going back to the apartment to find clues, and he's being stalked by the killer throughout the movie. And you do learn who the killer is a little over the halfway point, maybe at the halfway point, because this is also a short movie. It's not even 80 minutes long. I think it's like 78 minutes or so. So this is a short movie that manages to tell you an interesting, suspenseful thriller in such a short period of time. The acting is decent in this. This was done by college students, and you know, you can tell, but you can tell that they really cared about the project. You can tell that they wanted to make the best movie they could with what little they had. And I don't know what the budget was for this film, but you can tell they didn't have a lot. There were college students. They're not going to have much money to make a movie, but they managed to make the best movie they could with what they had, and that's something I truly admire. And I like the way this movie uses audio. There is a scene in here, I don't want to give too much away, but it involves a phone call, and I found it legitimately chilling because I can picture myself in the shoes of the person who got this phone call. So yes, The Wrong Door. A pretty damn good thriller, one that I would highly recommend, and one that not a lot of people have seen. And it was released by Visual Vengeance. I appreciate that company. They've been releasing quite a few shot-on-video horror movies that I might not have heard about beforehand. I'm still very new in my dive into shot-on-video horror movies. Again, this is a shot-on Super 8 horror movie, but I am still relatively new to that, and but I've been having such a fun time exploring that and finding gems like this. So, The Wrong Door, highly recommend it. A really good movie, done in a short time, so it's not a long sit. Check it out if you just want a solid thriller. And last but certainly not least, I usually like to save my favorite of the movies that I'm recommending for last, Trailer Park of Terror. Now, I'm doing things a little differently here because usually I recommend movies that I've checked out within the past couple of months. Trailer Park of Terror is a movie that I had seen before, but I had not watched it in a very, very long time. It's been... the movie came out in 2008, and so it's been, I think, over 10 years since I last watched it. I remembered liking it, and I suddenly had the urge to check it out again. And I am very sad that I waited 10 years to watch it again, because Trailer Park of Terror is really fun. It's very entertaining. It's an absolute blast. Such a fun movie. The movie takes place at a trailer park. It's, I know, shocking. In the past, there was this woman who was looked down upon by other members of the trailer park. She was seen as the quote-unquote trailer park whore. Even though she wasn't really a whore, but she was kind of forced into that lifestyle, and she's trying to find a way out. And she meets this guy who she falls in love with. You know, she's very mistreated by the people in the trailer park. And one night when she's going to see her boyfriend gets killed by certain members of the trailer park. She becomes devastated, and this is not a spoiler here. This all happens at the beginning of the movie. This is the opening of the movie. She runs into the devil. And we know he's the devil because he pisses fire. She makes a deal with the devil and murders everybody in the trailer park. And then it's like the people in the trailer park are cursed to stay in the trailer park for eternity, but she is now running the whole show. Flash forward, and there's this really interesting montage of just going through all these papers of missing people. Again, something we've seen before, but it was handled very well here, and I enjoyed it very much, just to set up the fact that, yep, people go missing when they go near this trailer park. So flash forward, and we're now hanging out with these group of teenagers on a camping trip of some kind. It's a church camping trip. This is a group of troubled teenagers who have been sent on this religious retreat to try to fix their sins or their issues. Now, some people, you understand why they were sent there. You have kleptomaniacs, you have drug addicts, you got assholes, and then there are people who you don't understand why they were there. Like, you have the main character who is a goth girl, and another character who is is a homosexual. And in those situations, like, okay, yeah, they don't need to be there. But anyway, so, you know, they're traveling, they get in the middle of a storm, of course, they get in an accident, of course, and they have to go to the trailer park to wait out the storm. And while at the trailer park, they meet our main villain, and she encourages them to stay the night, and as they stay the night, they start seeing the other members of the trailer park who are zombies. Not your typical zombie, those. They're more like ghost zombies. You know, they act completely like human beings. They're perfectly fine. They're still intelligent, but you know, they still have their personalities. But they look like ghouls. I would say ghouls is a better term than zombies. So you have all these undead ghouls, and naturally they start killing everybody off, and it's so entertaining. The effects work is really good. Mostly practical effects. The zombies all look really good. I was given more of a vibe of Return of the Living Dead zombies than Romero zombies, but Return of the Living Dead zombies with even more intelligence and more control over how they do things. Because no one's trying to eat brains in this one. Like, they are just there to kill people that come into the trailer park. And like I said, it's very entertaining, and I appreciate it at the beginning of the movie. Our main character is watching this television show, which is like a Joe Bob Briggs-esque Last Drive-In kind of show, and they're talking about 2000 Maniacs, Herschel Gordon Lewis's 2000 Maniacs from 1964. I think that's when it came out. I can't remember off the top of my head. But you know, they're showing respect to Herschel Gordon Lewis's 2000 Maniacs, and I love 2000 Maniacs. It's my favorite Herschel Gordon Lewis movie, one of my favorite 60s horror movies, and 2000 Maniacs deserves so much appreciation because, yeah, it was the genre that started the hillbilly horror genre. So many people say it was Deliverance, some people say it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but no, it was 2000 Maniacs. If it weren't for 2000 Maniacs, you would not have Wrong Turn, you would not have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you would not have Deliverance. So much is owed to 2000 Maniacs, so I appreciate that this movie shows appreciation to 2000 Maniacs. Anyway, this being the kind of movie it is, there are some unlikable characters here. There are some douchebag characters. There are characters who come across likable at first, but then towards the end of the movie, they show their true colors, which kind of shocks you, but then they get their comeuppance. There are characters who are assholes right from the beginning. And then there are characters who they have their issues, but you can't really dislike them. Like, there's a woman who's a drug addict, and you sympathize with her because she's dealing with an addiction. You have this guy who's a kleptomaniac and a bit of a pervert. But you kind of, like, he's entertaining, I mean, and then you have the two asshole characters who are just there to be assholes, and you just want to see them die, but they're not so insufferable that it makes the movie unwatchable, and when they get their comeuppance, it is very, very, very satisfying. But the real villains of the movies are these undead ghouls, the trailer park ghouls. And each one has their own personality, each one has their own thing. You have this one woman who's a masseuse, and she kills her victim by way of massage. You have this one woman who's, she's a bit overweight and she's obsessed with meat, and you know how that one's going to end. You have this one guy who's the butcher, and you know what he's going to do. You have the leading character who, she does look like an undead ghoul, but she has this mask that she puts on, like a rubber mask that matches with her face so you can't tell. She is so charismatic throughout this film, very entertaining to watch. We do sympathize with her because we understand what she went through that led her to her getting to this point, but we also understand she's the villain. You know, it's like, yeah, she is the main antagonist of the movie, and she's just such a great villain. And of course you have my favorite ghoul, which I think is everyone's favorite ghoul, this guy who's a guitarist, so he plays the guitar throughout the film. And there's this great scene where he plays his own song, and it's really catchy. The soundtrack of this movie is very, very good. And it embraces the theme, it embraces the idea. Like, this is a trailer park, and these are characters or caricatures of people you would meet in a southern trailer park. Like, The guitarist uses his guitar. The masseuse uses her massaging methods in her kills. The butcher uses his butcher elements in his kills. All the ghouls are great, and they have a great ringleader in the main female antagonist. It's just fun. That's all I can say about it. It's just so fun, and I'm so glad that I came back and watched it again. Trailer Park of Terror is a gem. All three of these movies I would call gems, but Trailer Park of Terror is a true hidden gem that not enough people are talking about. It's just so goddamn entertaining. The gore is great, the makeup is great. So yeah, Trailer Park of Terror, not much else I can say about it other than it's just a fun time, well worth a watch. This would be a good movie to get a group of friends together and just get a pizza, get some beer, various other substances if that enhances your enjoyment, but watch it and just have a blast laughing along with the film. And yeah, that's it. Those are my random horror recommendations for this month. I'm not sure when I will get to the next one. Again, the reason I did this so closer to the previous one is because of Die Laughing, which again I do think is worth checking out. Highly recommend it. Support independent film, and check out The Wrong Door and Trailer Park of Terror as well. Those are movies that highly deserve more love. And Die Laughing is a movie that deserves support. You know, I want to see what else these people can do. I want to see them get more notoriety so they can make more movies. Yeah, I hope you appreciated me selling out. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And as usual, if there are any movies that you checked out within the past few months or few weeks that you think are worth watching, leave them in the comments below. If you watch Pulp, Modern, Die Laughing, let me know what you think. Let the filmmakers know what you think. If you've seen any of the movies that I talked about in this movie, talk about them down below. And yeah, on that note, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the continued support on this channel. It truly does mean a lot to me. And until next time, this is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die.